Hello YouTubers, this is Cessnaace back again with another 10 video ads video, this time concerning CEDs, that is capacitance electronic discs. I think there's a conspiracy underway as far as me getting this video done because I keep getting interrupted, either by the doorbell, someone knocking at the door, phone ringing, what have you. But I'm going to try to get through this. Now, the CED format was a capacitance disc system invented by RCA. In 1980, they began manufacturing the discs. In 81, they launched the format. Unfortunately, sale of the players were drastically lower than what they had projected, and so they were hemorrhaging money. However, sale of the discs were twice as high as their most optimistic projections. So they were making quite a bit of money off of the disc, but it wasn't enough to compensate for the amount of money they were losing on the players. 1984 came, and they decided, well, we're going to stop making players, but we're going to continue making discs because that's where the profit is. Not very well thought out decision. They had a potential savior, however, a Korean company, and I don't remember the name of the company now, but I remember reading this in video review back in the day. A Korean company offered them a choice or a chance. They would license the right to manufacture the players, and RCA could continue making the discs. That was a win-win-win for everybody. It was a win for RCA because there would still be players being made, but they wouldn't be hemorrhaging money with the manufacturer of those players because they wouldn't be making them. It was a win for the Korean company, who felt they could make money doing it that way. And it was also a plus for RCA in that they could continue making a lot of money off of the discs. And it was a win for the consumer, because we would have a steady supply of discs and players. Now, this is my own theory about why RCA didn't accept that deal. But RCA said no. So the manufacture of players stopped. The manufacturing of discs continued. RCA announced that they were going to continue making discs for 3 years or longer, depending on the demand for the discs. However, RCA in '84 came out and announced, we are no longer going to be making the players. What happened? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what happened. Sale of the discs plummeted because people like me, I had 2 players, an RCA and an Hitachi, unloaded, dumped the format. So they weren't making money off of the discs that they were making because the demand had dried up for the discs. So they were only able to make the discs for another 2.5 years. 86 was the last year any discs were made. But had they gone with the Korean company, there would have been continued support for the discs. People would have seen this. They would have continued with the format. They would have continued buying the discs, and everybody would have been happy. Why they didn't do that, I don't know, unless, my own theory, RCA did not want to upset the unions, because all of RCA's branded players and many of the players that were badged by other companies like Sears were made by RCA. And I could just see them in their boardroom discussing, well, if we outsource all of these jobs for player manufacturer to Korea, it's going to be hell to pay with the unions. So we better not do that. So they took the short-sighted route. Now, there was another capacitance disc system on the market about the same time, invented by Japanese company JVC, and that format was called VHD. It was very similar to CED. The discs were housed in a caddy, like CEDs. The discs looked similar. However, the CED discs come in a 13-inch caddy because the discs are 12 inches in diameter, whereas with VHD the discs were, if I remember correctly, 10 inches. So the caddies were smaller, but the consumer wouldn't know that. And JVC had planned on marketing the VHD format in the UK and the US, the only two countries that saw the CED format. But seeing what happened with the CED format and that debacle, and the underperformance of the Laserdisc format and the huge quality control problems that they were having at the beginning, JVC backed out. They had in fact made a VHD manufacturing facility in the US, but it never went online. But the format was vastly superior to CED. CEDs have grooves, VHDs don't. You can't stack CED discs because you'll crush the grooves. I would imagine you can stack VHDs because there are no grooves. VHD is completely interactive. CED is not, although they did make a stab at it, and the later models had interactive functions. VHD had perfect noise-free fast forward and reverse. Unlike CED and unlike the Laserdiscs at the time, even CAV discs were not perfect because you'd get jitter on some frames. But you didn't have that with VHD. And also, VHD has a 3D mode on some of the players. They sold goggles which you put on your head, kind of like a welder's mask, and the glasses come down in front of your glasses. They don't make contact with your glasses, which I thought was just absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, they didn't market the format because they saw the way CED and Laserdisc had undersold. And in fact, kind of ironically, RCA had gone to Japan to try to get some Japanese manufacturers to license the right to manufacture some players. They did get Hitachi to go along with that. But they tried to get JVC to go in on that, but JVC said, well, the thing is, we've got a superior format to CED. You may want to take a look at it. You may want to license it. They showed it to RCA. It was clearly superior to CED, and RCA flew back to the States and promptly launched the CED format anyway. At any event, there are some basic rarity ratings for CED discs: common, uncommon, rare, very rare, extremely rare, and then there are the vaporware titles, which have not been confirmed as far as any copies being out there. In the US, there were 1,700 releases, about 200 vaporware titles. In the UK, there were about 200 titles released, and about a dozen vaporware titles. There are also quite a few variations on CED releases, but I'll get into those as I get into the video. This one is uncommon. You Only Live Twice, James Bond film. This had already been released on CED by RCA in a white caddy. White denoting mono sound, blue denoting stereo, and sometimes with surround sound, black, interactive and a limited edition, and gray for industrial. So the version of this in the white caddy from RCA is common. The version from CBS Fox is uncommon. Now, one of the variations is early on the CED format had a section here cut out that was like a handle so you could pull the discs out. But with the introduction of the J series, that was no longer necessary. So you have some titles that have the cutout and some that don't. And I'm talking about the same title. Some have a cutout on the label, but no cutout in the caddy. Some have a cutout in the caddy, but not on the label, so you can feel the indentations there. And with Fox, some of their releases were under the CBS Fox name, and sometimes they would release the same title under the 20th Century Fox name. So there were people who collect those variations. This is a film I have on Laserdisc. It is rare. What's Up, Tiger Lily? American International Pictures had bought the rights to a Japanese James Bond ripoff film series that was very popular in Japan called International Secret Police. They took one of the films in that series, International Secret Police, Key of Keys. They redubbed it into English as just a straight Bond spoof, or not spoof, but film ripoff. And it was laughed off the screen. So American International figured, well, why don't we just make it an all-out comedy? So they hired Woody Allen to rewrite the dub track and to get him and several of his friends to re-record the soundtrack. And the result was What's Up, Tiger Lily. One thing that American International did that was totally against what Woody Allen wanted was this was originally made for television. They decided it was so funny that it should be released theatrically, but it was too short to be released theatrically, so they shot some scenes of The Loving Spoonful, intercut those with the film, and that's why you have The Loving Spoonful in this, even though Woody Allen didn't want them there. Ironically, the soundtrack album was the best-selling Loving Spoonful album they had. Okay, this one is uncommon. Love at First Bite. Notice the handle there. Another variation has to do with RCA discs. Some releases have RCA Selectavision video discs, others say RCA video discs, others say simply video discs, and then sometimes all of those variations on the same release. Included in the cast, George Hamilton, Susan St. James, Richard Benjamin, Dick Shawn, Artie Johnson, Sherman Hemsley, and Isabel Sanford. Kind of funny, because Sherman Hemsley and Isabel Sanford played husband and wife on the TV series The Jeffersons. Okay, I had this one on VHS back in the day. This is uncommon. High Road to China. This next one is rare. It's in a black caddy, which denotes either a limited edition or interactive. In this case, limited edition. Disney Cartoon Classics, Limited Gold Edition. Disney's Best, The Fabulous 50s. Okay, the next one is uncommon. Cruel. Of course, blue caddies denote stereo. And some have surround sound. That sticker is on the plastic here, not on the actual disc. Okay, this one is uncommon, and it is sealed. Westworld. I saw this one in the theater. And the one thing I can say is, other than the fact that my monitor just went to sleep, is that Michael Crichton, who directed this, is a better director of his own work than Stephen King. If you've ever seen Maximum Overdrive, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, this one is rare. We have it in widescreen on Laserdisc. We have it in widescreen on DVD. It was released in Japan on Laserdisc in Pan and Scan. This is Pan and Scan. Thunderbirds are go! Okay, this next one is uncommon, and it's sealed. The Court Jester with Danny Kaye. This came out after they had come out with some interactive players. So, unlike Laserdisc where they called them chapter stops or chapter marks, RCA called them bands. But one thing they did do, in addition to adding or having the name of that particular chapter, but they also tell you exactly how far into the side it is. Like band 1 is 0:00, life could not be better. Band 2 starts 7:34 into side 1, is Outfox the Fox. Band 3, Baby Let Me Take You Dreaming, starts at 17:16. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if I showed the back or not. I'm going to go way over, but YouTube did tell me that I'm authorized to go over 15 minutes, so I had to take down some of my videos to do it. This is Matahari, and it is rare. Now, as I was attempting to do this, there was a knock at the door. More CED VideoDiscs. And I have some more that I did not decide to show in this video, because it would put me over 10. So I'll show them in another video. I've got 5 Laserdiscs waiting to be showed. I've got 13 more Laserdiscs coming. I've got about 20 DVDs that I haven't shown yet. And I've got a video game coming. I won't tell you what it is, but I will tell you that it's for the Sega Master System. And until next time, stay awesome.